Alright folks, welcome back. In the last video we established the base connectivity or the underlay network for both MPLS and internet to get us the reachability between all three firewalls that are going to be our SD-WAN environment. So in this video we're going to now take the next step, which is to configure and build the IPSEC tunnels that will ride those underlay network or connectivity that we had established in the last video. So for this one, we're going to hop over to the graphical interfaces of the firewalls to give you an idea of what the VPN configuration will look like there, and then we'll hop on the command line and I'll do the show sections for the config so you can see kind of both sides of the story here. So I'm going to start on the hub router, which is the lab FortiGate 04, and what we should see is essentially we've got nothing more than just our interfaces that we configured last time. So we've got port 1 is the MPLS, port 2 is the internet, port 3 is the LAN, and they all have ping enabled as we did last video. We have the couple static routes, okay, so we had the 192 and the 100 static routes, and other than that there's nothing there. The other stuff that you see remnants of are for my my access to these boxes, so I had to introduce a couple routes so that I can get to these to administer them. So we're going to be focused on the IPSEC section of the graphical interface here. So you can see when I come down to VPN IPSEC tunnels, there's nothing. There's no results here. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to create an IPSEC tunnel. So it starts up this IPSEC wizard, which this is the same. You can see it actually jumped me down to the IPSEC wizard. So if you don't want to go through the next kind of wizard kind of functionality, what I typically do is I just say the template, I'm going to say custom, okay? And what we'll do is we'll give it, we'll start with the internet side, I guess, first. All right, so we'll just call it INET-tunnel, okay? Once we give it the name, this is essentially the entire screen where we're going to be configuring all the bits and pieces of it, okay? So this is the hub, all right? So the hub is going to essentially be, we're going to call the VPN a dial-up user. So the spokes are going to be the ones who have the static IP address of the hub, and every spoke that we attach to our network is going to establish a VPN tunnel to the hub. The hub's just going to sit there and kind of listen for those VPNs, which is what dial-up user means in English, okay? So we're going to set it to be dial-up user, and we're going to, in this case, we're doing the INET, so we're going to say that the underlying interface that we want the tunnel to live on top of is going to be the internet port 2, all right? So the other thing we're going to do is, since I want the dial-up user, basically it wants you to input an IP address range, okay? So what we're going to do is, if we go back to our key here, our INET tunnels are 164.0.0/24. So that gives us the ability to have, 250 plus branch sites that will form an internet tunnel back to this single hub firewall, okay? So essentially take that range and just assign IP addresses to these boxes as they reach out and do their phase 1, phase 2 negotiations, okay? So that's all that means. So we're going to put that range in here. We're going to say 164, 0 or 1, I forget already. I already forget. Internet is 0, right? So 164, 0. We'll just say 10 through 164, 0.254. So, maybe we need to reserve like the first 10 for something. Who knows? We'll just start at 10 just to be safe. I tell you, we are going to make this firewall 1 because it's the data center, so we could have in theory started at maybe 2, but we're just going to go 10 to 254, okay? So we're going to change the mask to be a /24, all right? We're not doing anything with IPv6. Don't miss the advanced expansion here. So if you expand advanced, there's some stuff in here that we are going to look at. So we'll probably revisit this later for the AD-VPN stuff. So let's just leave this how it is for now, and we might come back to that in a bit. When we'll probably revisit it, like I said, when we do the AD-VPN. We're going to just do a simple pre-shared key. So I'm just going to call it Fortinet, all lowercase, very secure. Obviously, you don't want to do that in production. We'll do like v2. For peers, we're going to say any peer ID, okay? So again, in a production environment, you might want to dictate specific peer IDs per tunnel or transit. For the purpose of this lab, I'm just going to say any. For the phase 1 proposal, again, in a production environment, you're probably going to want to remove the weaker encryptions and authentications and focus in on some of the more secure. In this case, I'm just going to leave everything as default, which will allow all of these variations of phase 1 proposals. So I'm just going to leave it all just like that. I'm essentially going to leave the rest of this here as well. So for phase 2, that's fine. We're just going to leave it as is. Phase 2, same story. We're just going to essentially leave leave it all wide open. Again, it's a lab. This is just for demonstration purposes. So we're going to okay that. So you can see it now shows INET tunnel. Obviously it is down. There's nothing communicating to it. So let's go ahead and just create one more. We're going to create the MPLS side. So MPLS tunnel. And the only thing that's going to really change on this side is the interface. So MPLS port 1 and the range, right? So 164 it was 1, right? 164.1.0. So we said 1.10 through 164.1.254, okay? All right, and then /24, that's fine. We'll revisit this stuff because I can't remember. The spoke has to be set for one or the other, and I can't remember off the top of my head. So we're going to come back to that. I'll have to do a quick search on that. So same thing, we'll do Fortinet all lowercase. Like version 2, we'll say any peer and essentially leave all this stuff, kind of wide open. All right, so let's okay that. So now we have the foundation on the hub firewall for the internet tunnel and the MPLS tunnel. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hop down to, actually we're going to do one more thing here. So if we go to network interfaces, I want to point something out. So now when we come back to network interfaces, we can see that INET has a little plus sign next to it. So if we expand that, you can see what it did here is it took the internet tunnel and it's essentially kind of attached to the port 2. So it got that from when we configured it. We said what was that underlying interface. We said port 2 for internet, port 1 for MPLS. And this is what it does. It kind of nests it under the interface, right? But now if we wanted to, we can click into this interface, all right? And we can actually give it the IP address and enable ping and stuff. So we're going to do that, okay? So for the internet side, we're going to say 164.1.1. And then for this remote IP, I'm going to just take the last IP address in the range of those IPs that we had put on the VPN tunnel. I'm going to put the last IP address under the remote IP net mask, okay? And I'm just going to turn ping on, so that will allow us to do some verification once we think these tunnels are up and functional, okay? So we're going to do the same exact thing for the MPLS tunnel interface. So if we come in there and we paste, the only difference is that's 0.164.0.1, right? And we'll just make sure we turn ping on, okay? MPLS was 1, internet was 0. MPLS was 1. I reversed it, see? I just wanted to double check that. I thought I might have messed it up. 0 for internet. And now it might yell at me when I try to change it. Yeah. Okay. All right, we should be matching our key now, so that's fine. So 0 dot for internet, 1 dot for MPLS. Perfect. All right. Now, let's hop to firewall number 2. So we don't have any we don't see any signs of VPN. We just have the raw interfaces. We just have the couple routes that we had put in. And then when we come to IPSEC VPN tunnels, we've got nothing, right? So let's go ahead and create the tunnel, but this is going to be from the spoke side now, okay? So INET tunnel. Now, in this case, we're not going to do dial-up user. We're going to say static IP address, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to point it to the public IP address that we assign to firewall 4 in the data center, okay, which should be 100.111. All right, so just to verify that, right, if we come back here, 100.111. So we're pointing our VPN to that IP address. That's going to go out internet port 2, obviously, okay. And again, we'll come back to this stuff when we talk about like the ADVPN, because I got to just double check the settings. Pre-shared key, we have to make sure that we match Fortinet all lowercase. And this is, all this stuff needs to match, right? So if one of these, if you did lock this down and you were only allowing like one phase 1 proposal of encryption and authentication, it has to match. If it doesn't match, you're going to get a phase 1 failure, essentially. And if you don't get past phase 1, you're never going to get past, you're never even going to get to phase 2. So again, all this stuff's just going to get left on. And same thing for the phase 2, it's just all going to be left on. Okay, so I'm going to okay that. Now, one thing that I want to point out, so before we, actually here, let me show this because I did promise that. From a command line perspective, if you had these commands kind of committed to memory, or if you want to see what it looks like from the command line, you basically can do show VPN IPSEC phase 1 interface. And this is what the CLI version of the configuration looks like. Okay, so this is essentially everything we just clicked on inside the graphical interface, but this is from a command line perspective. And this is the phase 1 interface. If I hit the up arrow and I change phase 1 to phase 2, this is what the phase 2 parameters look like from a CLI perspective. Okay, so let me do that same command on the spoke side so you can kind of see it. We didn't do the MPLS tunnel, sorry. Let's do that really quick. Let's get that done. See, glad I checked. Static, and this one's 192.168.1.1. This will go out port 1. And we'll come back to that. Fortinet here, right? Phase 2. And everything else should be default, if you will. So let's just run that command one more time. Okay, so now we can see we have both tunnels and we can see the attributes thereof, right? If I hit the up arrow and change it to phase 2, I can see the parameters that we just defined in the GUI as well. All right. Now, if we go to dashboard on the hub and the spoke, under dashboard, to see this little plus sign, we can add a monitor. We're going to add a monitor, and it brings up a nice list of all the things that we can kind of monitor. We're going to come down the network to IPSEC, and we're going to add the IPSEC monitor. So once we add that, if we come back to dashboard, we should see the IPSEC monitor show up, and I'm going to click it, and this will, once we start to build tunnels and build out the topology, this will show us all of the active tunnels. Right now the tunnel's not up, and you might be asking yourself, well, why is it not up? Didn't we just configure it? There's one more piece to that puzzle. So let me add the dashboard for the spoke as well, or the monitor. Okay, so you can see from a spoke perspective, the tunnels are showing up in the monitor, but they're down. That's because they're static, okay? I can try to bring them up by hitting bring up all phase 2 selectors, and it's never going to come up, okay? And there's one key that you can burn a lot of time on. So there's no policy or anything to reference these tunnels right now. So we're not going to need this policy that I create right now, but I just want to do it for demonstration purposes because I want to verify that our VPN configuration is good, okay? And the only way we're going to verify that is if we do something like this, okay? I'm going to build this new fake policy, or I can call it like, bogus policy. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take both of those tunnel interfaces. I'm just going to stick them in the incoming interface. I'm going to stick them in the outgoing interface. Again, this is just a bogus rule. All I want to do is get these tunnel interfaces referenced in a rule or a policy. That's all I want to do. So I'm going to say source all, destination all, and then service all, okay? I'm going to turn network address translation off. I'm going to log all sessions, and I'm going to log it generate logs when the session starts, and it's enabled. So I'm just going to hit OK here. So it throws a little exclamation point out there because it's basically saying that, hey, the interfaces that you're referencing in this rule are down. But if I refresh the page, let's see what happens here. Let's go back to dashboard, IPSEC monitor, and let's try to bring up the tunnel. Okay, we've got nothing going on, all right? Neither one will come up. Let's take that same logic and let's apply that to the hub. Turn that off. We'll do all sessions, log when starts. Okay. So now we've got this bogus policy on the hub, and we've got this bogus policy on the spoke. Okay. And look at that. So I didn't even have to come in and say bring up. They came up all by themselves. All right. So that can cause you a lot of grief. There's more to, obviously there's more to this configuration as far as SD-WAN goes that we still need to get to. I know that's very vague, and I'm not really expanding upon any of that because I'm saving it for the videos to come. But the only other way to kind of verify if your VPN tunnel configurations are correct is to build some bogus policy. So now that we have those bogus policies in place, what we should be able to do is a quick ping. So I'm going to ping the hub, and look at that. We can ping 0.1, and if I hit the up arrow, we should be able to ping 1.1. So that's our basic connectivity to prove that our VPN configurations are intact on both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slap that configuration on firewall 1 because it's the same exact thing that we just did. So next video, what we'll start to look at is the BGP configuration across the or over the tunnels, and we'll start to dabble into the SD-WAN, some of those building blocks that I was kind of referring to. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one.